What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at Data Dash, and today is March 4th of 2020. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are. And in today's video, we're going to be spending some time not only to dive through the continued growth and stability within cryptocurrency markets, but along with that as well, talking about the continued developments in the enterprise space for cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. We've not only seen a continued expansion and growth in the DeFi movement that has brought a lot of positivity specifically to the Ethereum blockchain, but also as well, we've seen a lot of excitement in 2020 and in 2021 for growth in enterprise adoption. So we'll be talking about that and more, as well as diving into equity markets later on in the video. But let's go ahead and take a look across the board for cryptocurrency markets. So taking a look over the last 24 hours, we can see here that the general market right now is in a no trend scenario with most plays down in the red at the moment. However, again, no serious or significant moves as Bitcoin is pushing sideways at the moment. Right now, I am noticing, though, that we are seeing a few plays of ours up in the green. We see Chainlink up nearly 10%, rallying to new all-time highs compared to Bitcoin. And along with that as well, another big play, Ravencoin, looking like it might pick up steam here over the next couple of days as I took a look at the chart just this morning. Now, Bitcoin itself, not much news to really talk about. Again, we could take a look at the short term, but right now, this is trading in the range that we expect to trade in, anywhere from 7,800 to up to 12,000 throughout the next couple of months, up towards the halving event. Again, I wouldn't be trying to trade too much in between here. If anything, the major thing I'm doing to increase my risk profile and also hopefully my reward profile is positioning myself in the altcoins that I think are going to lead in this market, not only here in the short term, but also through the halving event. So we've been doing that, and quite frankly, guys, it's been paying off quite nicely. If we take a look here, for example, Chainlink, one of the biggest positions that I have, continuing to rally. I mean, this is the kind of stuff you want to see. If you guys want to look at it in a technical analysis way, don't look at the hourly, don't look at the minute chart, look at the daily, look at the weekly, and hopefully at the monthly over the next coming months here. But if you take a look at the daily or weekly, you'll see that the trend here is very clear, right? We had the ascending triangle that we've been talking about for months back here since we were building our first major positions in Chainlink. And then along with that as well, we had the pullback onto that level to make it new support, and then a rally, not only recovering those losses, but continuing to new all-time highs. These are the kind of technical patterns you want to see. If you guys are going to be divulging into different positions in the altcoin space, you want to make sure you have players that are showing and signaling strength. You don't want to buy players who are down 98, 99% unless you're confident on the fundamentals. And I'll be honest, guys, I don't think there's too many plays out there outside of a few the ones that we've mentioned here on the channel that I really feel can do that, okay? So one of those examples I would say is something like Kyber Network, which has signaled a lot of strength coming out of the bear market, right? We had an ascending triangle very similar to Chainlink in this case for Kyber Network. And now we're up here towards 7,000 Satoshis. Definitely a fade off from the rally up to 10,000. Again, we talked about 10,000 being a significant level of resistance in this case for Kyber Network. Now, some of you might ask, have I sold any positions? I actually haven't. I actually held on to my Kyber Network throughout this. I've been traveling over the last few days, guys, so I haven't had too much time to watch the charts. But at the same time, Kyber for me is not a play to try to trade around, even in this general time frame. I'm looking at this possibly revisiting back up towards its previous kind of resistance range back here, back from 2018. And not to mention as well, Bitcoin's much cheaper. So I think there's a lot of room for this play to continue growing. And not to mention, Kyber Network itself is possibly going to be serving as the base liquidity layer for DeFi. So again, it's one of those kind of big ticket bets where if you're excited about DeFi, if you understand what Kyber Network is and what it's doing and how it's moving towards building a decentralized autonomous organization over the network, then in this case, I think it's going to be a very solid bet over the next coming months. But again, you guys have to understand your time frames, and also you might want to wait for a pullback of some sort if you're interested. I'm not trying to tell you guys to invest in or anything. It's just one of my big positions as well. Okay. Now, we've talked a lot about kind of the, again, growing altcoin market and also just the general kind of positive nature in the cryptocurrency space. But one thing that we haven't talked about outside of even the DeFi movement is really the expansion of Ethereum enterprise adoption. Now, we talked about this in one of our most recent newsletters, not only talking about the not only continued excitement around DeFi and also enterprise adoption, but more specifically, the enterprise world of blockchain technology is changing quite rapidly, and I'll be fair, I don't really think it's getting the kind of publication or discussion that it deserves. And the one big news that I wanted to talk about today, the big piece of news here, and this is probably going to be one of the first times you guys hear about it, is a recent piece that came out from the team at Unibright. And they are working alongside a variety of other participants in creating the baseline protocol. Now, I want to be very clear about what the baseline protocol is. Again, I probably won't do it full justice in explaining the kind of capabilities that this is going to offer. But I want to go ahead and give you guys a quick summary to understand how big this is. So to put it simple, what is the baseline protocol? Well, over the last couple of months, a variety of major companies such as Ernst & Young, Microsoft, and Consensus, as well as a wide range of blockchain companies such as Unibright, have come together to build a standard framework, an open source protocol that makes it simple for enterprise to actually utilize the mainnet features of Ethereum, such as deploying mutual smart contracts between companies, while at the same time not having to exchange sensitive data, and also be able to plug in to traditional systems that are essential to making the use cases of blockchain actually valuable. So this is something that's very, very exciting. I don't want to be over complex in trying to explain it, guys. I just want to go ahead and give you a brief overview of what this really means. So there's a great graph here that kind of showcases through this very simplified diagram not only some key bullet points here as to what they're trying to do with the baseline protocol, but also what this means, right? So at its core, the big value proposition here is that they're building an interconnected framework here, similar to how Unibright's been trying to do for the last 2 years, between your traditional systems, so your enterprise-ready systems in this case, but along with that, your CRM systems, so all of the traditional architecture of traditional business into the world of public blockchains like Ethereum. And still being able to not only interact with public blockchains, but to communicate with other companies over public blockchains, serving as a middleware solution for companies to interact with one another. Now, I want to explain kind of what this term of middleware is. You might have heard me mention this before when I've talked about Chainlink as serving as a middleware to Ethereum, being able to serve as a provider for price feed data and other forms of data into smart contracts on the Ethereum mainnet. And this is the exact same kind of viewpoint here. Ethereum itself does one thing really good. It does trustless transactions. If you and I enter into a smart contract, we have a specific set of code inputted into that smart contract to do a certain set of actions. We can know that that smart contract, so long as it's been audited and it is clean in the sense of its code, that it's going to execute a certain way and that there's no person who's going to collude or interfere with that. But in this case, we need to be able to have that framework where we can interact in a trustless manner while also plugging in to traditional systems and keeping certain pieces of data that might be important for those contracts private, and in this case, permission between our partners. So in this case, again, we can have our private data. In this case, we can still maintain a sense of privacy on chain through the use of zero knowledge proofs, which again, this has not been seen in the crypto space in the sense of enterprise for a very, very long period of time. Really, we haven't seen it in history. So this is something that's been talked about for a while, but we're really finally starting to see it materialize. So let's go ahead and talk about these 4 major bullet points here. So the baseline protocol addresses the 3 major concerns that have kept enterprise from adopting blockchain technology and smart contracts. That is privacy, also the permission nature of blockchains, and then also in this case as well, performance, right? We don't want to have all this heavy data on chain, and we don't need it to be on chain. In fact, that might violate the key concern here that companies have had that have prevented them from utilizing blockchain, which is privacy. So being able to keep all of that on permission networks, on permission chains. And this is very similar to, again, why a lot of companies have opted in to use Hyperledger over the last few years, right? But the problem with Hyperledger is that, unlike Ethereum, it doesn't provide this full ability to utilize the trustlessness of Ethereum's mainnet. So again, we're getting kind of the best of both worlds here, and we're providing a full framework for companies to really benefit. And again, leaving sensitive data off-chain in this case, right? So in this case, not having personal customer information or certain types of pieces of information that shouldn't be kept on a public record, keeping that off-chain in this case. Another big point here. So the baseline protocol makes it very simple as well, right? That you go on a pay-per-use basis, right? So if you want to deploy contracts or utilize the baseline protocol in some way, shape, or form, it's on a pay-per-use basis. It's unrestricted and it's always on, just like the Ethereum mainnet. There's no downtime, and again, it serves as an essential way where enterprise can actually utilize blockchain for the first time in a meaningful manner. So this is not only good for tokenization, and DeFi, but general commercial use. There's a ton of use cases that originally, just back a year or two ago, that weren't possible on the Ethereum mainnet that now are possible thanks to the Baseline protocol. Now, for those of you out there, again, I might be trying to understand, a little bit deeper as to where Unibright plays into all of this. They are going to be completely compliant in the sense of the standards for the Baseline protocol, meaning that if you want to utilize Unibright in this case, and again, this is kind of the area that highlights it here, they are completely compliant. The Unibright framework is completely compliant, as well as free equity and engaging and operating within the Baseline protocol. So again, this is a very big piece of news here that Unibright has not only been one of the major kind of arms in building the Baseline protocol, but also sets the standard in this case where its application, the Unibright framework, as well as free equity, will plug in perfectly into these systems and be able to communicate with other participants who are utilizing the Baseline protocol. So again, this is my understanding of it so far, guys. This is relatively recent news here. And again, as I've continued communication with Stefan and Martin, I have to say that I get continuously excited about seeing the potential of this. I know it can seem a bit kind of complex, and to some people it might not be as interesting as something like DeFi, but I will say that at the end of the day, guys, this is really culminating on years of vision that not only Unibright has had, as well as many other companies in the space, but the Ethereum mainnet has had. If you look back to 2017, this has been the promise that Ethereum has made for a very long period of time, that enterprise adoption was right around the corner, and we're finally getting it to some degree. And when you see companies like Ernst & Young, you see companies like Microsoft, and heads in the Ethereum ecosystem like Consensus coming together and finally culminating on things like the Baseline protocol, you can't help but get excited that this is finally culminating and finally coming together. So again, definitely read through this. See the impact of being able to use Ethereum as a middleware solution while also plugging into traditional systems and providing a whole new suite of tools such as zero-knowledge proofs and private messaging. I mean, guys, this is going to be huge. Now, another thing as well, just in the sense of UBT, UBT has been getting a lot of listings this week. As you guys know, Unibright in this case has been really picking up steam. They just got a listing recently on Kyber Network, as well as HitBTC. So again, starting to build a lot more liquidity for a lot of these utility tokens that are actually building real things in the space. So I'm happy to have stood by this project from the beginning, and I'm happy to see Unibright continuing to expand. I think we've got a big use case for enterprise adoption as well as DeFi. And this is, again, a topic that I've highlighted in my newsletter, guys. I talked a lot about the enterprise section starting to finally play catch up. And again, it's not getting the kind of publication you would think that it'd get, right? This was an article back about 2 weeks ago, and it was one of the few that actually highlighted in a decent way how we're starting to see companies come back onto the grind of blockchain, or in many cases, they're finally revealing the work that they've done. So, for example, Digital Asset Services has joined Salesforce, as well as Samsung Venture Investment. We also have a collaboration here from JP Morgan and Consensus, working with the Quorum blockchain to build basically a private network for transactions. And also Ripple as well, continuing to grow its venture fund. And then also Wells Fargo investing into Elliptic. So we're seeing a lot of major companies positioning themselves, and it's causing an institutional or enterprise FOMO across the board. Along with that as well, in the sense of positive developments and news in the cryptocurrency space, we finally see that India's Supreme Court has declared that India's commercial banks can no longer discriminate users of cryptocurrencies or cryptocurrency platforms. So to put it simple, as many of you might know or might have experienced yourself, a variety of people and companies from a variety of countries have had their bank accounts shut down by utilizing platforms such as exchanges and other types of cryptocurrency-based platforms. And now the Supreme Court of India has declared that this is no longer legally viable, that banks, in this case, commercial banks specifically, can't discriminate against India's users of platforms. And this is really exciting news. This is a big change of tone from the kind of legislative approach that we've seen in India over the last couple of years. So I'm very excited to see this continuing to expand. So all in all, I think this really speaks to the positive tone of cryptocurrency markets in 2020. We're not only seeing a growth in cryptocurrency markets, we're seeing a continued growth in the tech and development of the cryptocurrency space, but also in the sense of the understanding of a regulatory framework around this space across a variety of nations such as India. So now that we've talked about the news and we've talked about cryptocurrency markets, I want to go ahead and spend a little bit of time to talk about our sponsored partner Clio and discuss a little bit about not only their strategy builder, but specifically closed functions inside your strategies. A lot of people out there have left comments and questions in regards to how do I actually go about utilizing Clio and utilizing it in a way where I can actually not only have a standard close or take profit as well as a stop loss, but also utilize indicators in an interesting way to be able to take profit or maybe protect in case things are going south, right? Maybe the trading strategy doesn't work the way you intended. So I actually went ahead and I built an open close strategy using Chainlink as my main altcoin that actually turned out to be quite profitable. And I'll showcase how this actually works. So if we go here to take a look at the rules here, we're going to go ahead and click create new version just so we can dive into the strategy builder and see it real time. So as with any strategy, you need to have three things. You need to have an open condition, you need to set your asset and volume, and have a closed condition or stop loss. I had a win condition when the RSI is below 40 for Chainlink compared to Bitcoin. In this case, I would engage into a long position with 100% of my balance, a 25% stop loss, and a 75% take profit. Now this is already pretty functionable. This has all the things we need right here in the sense of a stop loss and a take profit, again, estimating how much we want to utilize and our win scenario. But this again might limit us to some degree if we were just to use percentage basis for an increase or decrease in price for our stop loss and take profit. So in this case, we're using a close function, which allows us to set other standards where we'll close the trade if certain standards are met. So for example, we're buying here when the RSI is on the cheaper end of things, when it's below 40 points. But afterwards, we could also set a function where if the RSI is overextended up to 90 points out of 100, we could also close our trade. Or maybe when the MACD is up by 20% in the last 4 weeks. Again, you can set a variety of functions here, but what it allows you to do is it allows you to utilize a variety of indicators here in order to build a much more customized strategy. And as we saw here, when we deploy the strategy, we have a very profitable trading strategy. So again, that's going to be it for today's video in the sense of Clio, guys, but I think it's very important to start testing around with that. So if you all have a Clio account in this case, definitely test around with it. Give it a try here and try it on some of your favorite altcoins to build some of your favorite strategies. Anyways, that's going to be it for the video, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys like this video, drop a like. And if you have a comment on some of the things we talked about, maybe from the Clio platform, to also talking about the news out of India, as well as the continued growth in enterprise adoption through big news announcements like the baseline protocol, leave a comment down below. What's got you excited on this space? I'm interested to hear down below. Anyways, I hope you all are having a great day wherever you are, and I'll see you all in the next one. Stay tuned.